Scene script. Imagine this. A sudden storm hits your town, power goes out, and you're left with no communication. Are you ready for this? Emergencies and disasters are as unpredictable as they are inevitable. They can strike anywhere, at any time, often without a moment's notice. You may be going about your everyday life one moment, and the next, you're thrust into a situation that demands quick thinking, resilience, and above all, preparedness. Now let's face it, the word preparedness can seem vague, even intimidating. It's a broad term, encompassing everything from knowing your evacuation routes to having a stash of canned goods in your pantry. But at its core, preparedness is about one thing: ensuring you and your loved ones are equipped to survive in the face of adversity. Disasters don't discriminate. They don't care if you're at home, at work, or on vacation. They don't care if you're young or old, rich or poor. They can upend your life in an instant, leaving you scrambling for resources, shelter, and information. But here's the thing. You don't have to be a survival expert or a doomsday prepper to be prepared. All it takes is a little foresight, a dash of planning, and the willingness to take action. Think about the essentials: food, water, shelter, and power. These are the pillars of survival. Ensuring you have adequate supplies of food and water, the ability to source and purify more if needed, and a backup power supply can mean the difference between life and death in an emergency situation. But preparedness isn't just about supplies. It's also about knowledge. Knowing what to do when disaster strikes, how to keep calm and think clearly, and how to use the resources you have effectively can be just as important as the resources themselves. So, let's ask that question again. Are you ready? If the thought of being unprepared leaves you feeling uneasy, you're not alone. But the good news is you can change that. Preparedness is not about living in fear, it's about living with a sense of security. Imagine a situation where an unforeseen disaster strikes, and you're left with nothing but uncertainty and chaos. Now picture the same scenario. But this time, you have a plan. You know where your food and water supplies are, you have a backup power source, and you have an evacuation route. The difference is palpable, isn't it? Planning for emergencies is a crucial aspect of survival. It's like having a map in an unfamiliar city. It guides you, reduces confusion, and importantly, lowers anxiety. When emergencies strike, they bring along a whirlwind of emotions and panic. A well-laid plan can be your anchor in these turbulent times. Moreover, a comprehensive plan increases your chances of survival. It equips you with the tools and knowledge to navigate through the catastrophe, ensuring you and your loved ones stay safe. Remember, a disaster is an event, but survival is a journey. With a solid plan, you can face any emergency with confidence. In an emergency, two of the most basic human needs are food and water. Imagine this. A sudden natural disaster strikes, you're cut off from the outside world, and all the conveniences we often take for granted are gone. In these critical moments, having a prepared stockpile of food and water can be a game changer. Now let's delve into the specifics of what this means. Firstly, you want to ensure you have at least a 3-day supply of non-perishable food items. Why 3 days? Well, it's typically the amount of time it can take for rescue operations to reach you in severe situations. Your food supply should include items that are easy to prepare and don't require refrigeration or cooking. Think canned goods, dried fruits, nuts, and energy bars, and don't forget the manual can opener. You won't be getting far with canned food if you can't open them. Also, remember to pack utensils. Eating with your hands might be fun at a picnic, but during an emergency, maintaining hygiene is paramount. Next up is water. Just as with food, a minimum 3-day supply is crucial. That's about 1 gallon per person per day. This accounts for both drinking and sanitation needs. And don't forget about your pets. They need water too. Storing water safely is just as important as having it. Use food-grade water storage containers and avoid containers that will decompose or break, such as milk cartons or glass bottles. Be sure to treat the water to kill bacteria and viruses. This can be done using household bleach or water purification tablets. And lastly, don't just store it and forget it. Your food and water supplies should be checked every 6 months. Replace expired items and retreat stored water to ensure its safety. Remember, in an emergency, food and water are more than just necessities, they're lifelines. So make sure you're prepared. Your survival could depend on it. When the lights go out, a backup power supply can be your best friend. Imagine, if you will, a storm knocked out the power in your neighborhood. You're left in the dark, your refrigerator stops running, and your electronic devices start to die. Suddenly, you're cut off from the world, unable to communicate or access vital information. This is where a backup power supply comes into play. An essential part of any emergency preparedness plan is having a reliable source of backup power. It can keep your home running smoothly during prolonged power outages. It can power your lights, keep your food from spoiling, and most importantly, keep your communication devices charged. Now, when we talk about backup power supplies, we don't just mean a stack of batteries or a gas generator. While these can be useful in a pinch, they have their limitations. Batteries eventually run out, and gas generators require a steady supply of fuel, which might not be available during an extended crisis. This is where renewable energy sources like solar power come into the picture. Solar-powered generators are an excellent option for a backup power supply. They harness the power of the sun, a resource that's as reliable as it is abundant. Even on cloudy days, they can still generate power, albeit at a reduced rate. Solar power doesn't just offer reliability, it's also a sustainable choice. Unlike gas generators, solar generators produce no harmful emissions. They're silent, safe to use indoors, and require little maintenance. Best of all, once you've made the initial investment, the energy they produce is completely free. In conclusion, having a backup power supply is not just a convenient luxury, it's a necessity in today's world. And choosing a renewable, reliable source like solar power is not only a smart decision for you and your family, but also for the environment. So, as you plan for any potential emergencies, remember to include a backup power supply in your preparedness plan. In the dark times, a reliable power source can bring a ray of hope. So, where do you start your journey towards emergency preparedness? Well, the first step is to create an emergency plan. Write down where you and your family will meet in case of an emergency and what each person's role will be. This should include details like who will grab the emergency kit, who will be in charge of ensuring everyone is safe, and who will communicate with external help if necessary. Next, it's time to build an emergency kit. This kit should be easily accessible and should contain everything you might need in a crisis. This includes medical supplies like bandages and painkillers, as well as food and water supplies that can last for at least 3 days. Don't forget key items like flashlights, batteries, a multi-tool, and a portable solar-powered radio. On top of that, it's crucial to prepare for specific risks in your area. If you live in a flood-prone zone, for instance, you might want to include items like sandbags or waterproof containers in your kit. If wildfires are a risk, consider investing in fire-resistant clothing or blankets. Staying informed about potential risks in your area is also vital. Sign up for local alerts and warnings, and regularly check the news for updates on weather conditions and other potential hazards. Knowledge truly is power when it comes to emergency preparedness. Lastly, remember to regularly review and update your plan and kit. As time goes on, you might need to add new items or replace expired ones. Your plan might also need to be tweaked as your family's needs change. And it's always a good idea to run regular drills with your family to ensure everyone knows what to do when an emergency strikes. This will not only help everyone remember the plan, but also highlight any potential issues that need to be addressed. Emergency preparedness is not a one-time task. It's an ongoing commitment to safety and survival. Remember, the goal is not to live in fear, but to be ready to face any challenge with confidence and resilience. To sum up, emergency preparedness is all about planning, preparing, and staying informed. It's about ensuring that you and your loved ones have a fighting chance should disaster strike. And as we've discussed, the key components of this readiness are food and water storage, backup power supply, and a continuous commitment to staying prepared. Having an adequate food supply and the ability to source and purify water are non-negotiables. They are your lifelines in a dire situation. Similarly, a backup power supply like a solar-powered generator can be a game changer when the grid goes down. But remember, preparedness doesn't end with stocking up. It's an ongoing effort, a lifestyle choice. Regularly update your emergency plan, keep your supplies in check, and stay informed about potential threats in your area. Remember, when it comes to emergencies, the best defense is a good offense. So, plan, prepare, and stay safe.